Donald Anderson, bracket no relation. Put your hands together. Welcome back to the stage.
Thanks, Gavin. Gavin actually did all the work. I just sit back and let other people do the work. Now, about Freddy, I don't want to say too much because people say more that I don't do preempt, and Freddy says. But just briefly, you all know he's born in Ireland. Most of his life in Easterhouse, married to his wife, Isabel, deceased as well. Freddy now is very political. Everything he did was, even when he was very ill, he never spoke about his illness, and he always spoke about politics. And you wouldn't know he was ill because he was always causing trouble everywhere he went. I don't know how many pubs he get put out of. Just quickly about one pub, and that was in Scotia, you know, the famous Scotia. You get barred from there, I don't know what for. And it was the days before the computers came out. You had an old rodeo machine, remember them, the handle? And he printed a big ream of a poem slagging the barman, and he stood outside selling it for the old 6 pence, slagging the barman. Everybody's buying it again, and they're all laughing and reading it out loud. The barman came out with furious and grabbed it off and geez at you. Gave him the money, he says, get in there and shut up. Frame it in, he never shut up. That was Freddy, but he had this rodeo machine. I used to go up to Celtic Music Radio to get leaflets for all sorts of things, you know. And Paul and their wee boys and wee lasses, but once the Brit left went in without asking and used Fred's machine. And if you met Freddy's tongue, when he just let them know what he thought of the Brit left, never mind using his bloody machine without permission. Freddy was one of these guys who always spoke his mind. You know, it's not a good idea at times, but he did. Because if anywhere, I've been a few many rights with public with Freddy lots of times, but that was Freddy. But his background quickly, without preempting him, in Easterhouse, he was in the Easterhouse Festival Committee. And that was in I think it was the 70s. And it wasn't just a festival committee, it was cultural, it was very political and economic, and it was into community politics. And if you all remember Easterhouse in the 70s, there was nothing there, not even a shop. And even Sir William Connolly, that Brit, called it a Desert Windies, or Desert Windies, you know. It was pretty bad. But Easterhouse Festival Committee fought for everything, every park bench, shop, shopping centre, swimming pool, you name it, and it plays. And had a paper called the Easterhouse Voice, and Freddy wrote for that. It was bloody good stuff, you know, and it was slagging off the councillors and Freddy's poems. And one of the councillors' sons was a David Stevenson, somebody called Stevenson. He became an actor anyway. You seen him in Gary Stevenson, you seen him in Billy Elliot, and he was played an Irish boxer in the gangs of New York, you know. And he was pro-Labour then, but I don't think he would be now. I couldn't imagine anybody Labour apart from Arthur Johnson, you know, in here, without slagging him off. But anyway, that was what he did. And he was in the Communist Party, and he went to the SNP, and of course, he was in the SRSM, Scottish Republican Socialist Movement, you know. He never paid any dues, and he cost us a fortune, but he made us money as well at the same time, and it was a delight to have anywhere. But Easterhouse Festival Committee, go back to that, they put in plays, Freddy's plays, and he won a Fringe first for his Cassivi. And the people who ran it was a guy called Kieran Grant and his wife, they're both dead now, and Jimmy Burns over there. Jimmy managed it, and they did work that's not recorded anywhere. It should be, but Jimmy Burns was great at getting things going, but along with Freddy, he kept Freddy in control if that was possible, but they did do all that kind of work. So that was Freddy. So I won't say any more about Freddy. Maybe one wee anecdote, right, because you all know about this one. Every year he spoke at Broth Commemoration, he spoke at all our rallies. And the year he died, Janet again kept his ashes in her hut in Rutherglen. And half were to get scattered in Ireland and half were at Broth. So we scattered Freddy's ashes. I flung it over the wall, because we're barred from the Abbey, because some person burnt a butcher's apron and it wasn't me. So we're barred, so we're around the back of the palings, and I flung Freddy's ashes over the palings, and I flung his favourite malt that I always paid for over. Then it did a U-turn and came back. I think it was after the rest of a flask. It came right back, and Rosie Kane was speaking, and she was covered in Freddy's ashes and her 2 daughters. It was a shame, you know, so it must have. And the SNP had split anyway already, so you couldn't blame Freddy. So we called for a minute's pandemonium for Freddy. I'm going to call for pandemonium for you, but right. This is quite a well-known pub. I need to thank Susan over there, Susan Lynch, and Delia Lynch downstairs. That's John Lynch's daughter, you know. There's no charge, and they always do things for us. Freddy didn't just come here. He came to everybody, wherever you went to get away from me, he was there. Every pub in Glasgow was there. But I'll leave other speakers to speak about Freddy and sings on. Thanks for wasting your time listening to me.
Thank you very much, Alan. And I think the last time a lot of us were gathered here, it was to celebrate the unveiling of the plaque to Matt McGinn, just at the start of the year. So I thought it might be appropriate, seeing as how where we are, that we start with a Matt McGinn song. Well, right now we're on the corner of Ross Street, which I believe was where Matt lived. And he wrote this about some of the sights that he could see stumbling out the pubs late at night. Maggie, Nellie and Mary Ann, Willie, Lizzie and Phil McCann, get your jacket and don't be late. Marta Polis and the Gallagate. Now if you don't get any of the rest of it, you can get that bit. Marta Polis and the Gallagate, on the Gallagate on a Friday night. The folks will gather to see the sights. They come from miles and miles around. It's 10 o'clock when the pub shuts down, and it's Maggie, Nellie and Marion, Leslie, Willie and Phil McCann. Get your chicken and don't be late. Marta Polis and the Gallagate. You know the time bell, it began to ring, and then the barmaid began to fling. And big souls, wee souls, every kind, that are stone drunk on that cheap red wine. And Maggie, Nellie and Mary and Lizzie, Willie and Phil McCann. Get your chicken and don't be late. Marta Polis and the Gallagate. You know the first one out, it was Picture Grant. Up the Celtic was his chant, and he roars it out, but just to show who's boss, he shouts up Rangers at the Brighton Cross. And it's Maggie, Nellie and Mary Ann, Leslie, Willie and Phil McCann. Get your chicken and don't be late. Marta Polis and the Gallagate. You know Blackpool maid, she came out and ran, followed by a wee bad man. If he catches her, she will surely choke. She drank his wine and then she picked his poke. And it's Maggie, Nellie and Mary Ann, Leslie, Willie and Phil McCann. Get your chicken and don't be Marta Polis and the Gallagate. You know Danny Owens, he comes out for a fight, and he threatens every man in sight. And he grins and he paws and he's out the game, but his wife will murder him when he gets home. And it's Maggie, Nellie and Mary and Lizzie, Willie and Phil McCann. Get your chicken and don't be late. And it's Marta Polis in the gap. I can relate to this last verse. There's two big Polis, the next we see eat the moose and John the Pea into the public house. They ran for a late night drink with the publican. And it's Maggie, Nellie and Mary Ann, Leslie, Willie and Phil McCann. Get your chicken and don't be late. Marta Polis in there one more time. And it's Maggie, Nellie and Mary Ann, Leslie, Willie and Phil McCann. Get your chicken and don't be late. Marta Polis in the, Marta Polis in the, Marta Polis in the Gallagate. Hey! Now we're talking. Now, on the tables, you'll see the artwork for the album called Ding Dong Dollar, which, if you don't know about Ding Dong Dollar, it was such an important piece of work when the Proteus first came up into the Holy Loch in 1961 and Maurice Blythman gathered round him a bunch of people who would write stories and poems and then particular songs. All the people are on this front cover here. A lot of very famous faces. There's Maurice himself, just underneath him is Josh McRae. And underneath Josh, kind of just a side profile, that's a young Hamish Imlach right at the front, if you see that. What's the name of the wee fellow with the bow tie again? I can't remember. Jackie O'Connor. Jackie O'Connor, is it? Jackie O'Connor. Right beside Jackie is John Maclean. Jim sent us something that I'm going to read out for you later on. In front of Jim, it's Nigel Denver. And then right in front of Nigel, that is Marion Blythman, who's sitting right here, right in front of him. That's Marion sitting with us this afternoon. Out of all the musicians that sang on the album, very few of them are still left alive with us. On, I believe, just one track, this man here played his banjo and he knew every person that was on the album. He knows every song. Matter of fact, I was struggling to think of a song to sing here today that Alastair or doesn't sing or that Arthur Johnson doesn't sing. But a man he's got such a huge footprint in this particular part of folk music and folk culture. Ladies and gentlemen, you all know him, he's an absolute national treasure. Put your hands together, it's Alastair McDonald!
Yeah. Gavin. Couldn't disagree with any of that, Gavin. That is so minor. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Gavin Paterson. It's really nothing to do with me. It's just I've managed to live this long. I've lived long enough, in fact, to be my own tribute act. For such a day as this, I suppose a song associated with an Irish tune but with a Scottish sentiment would be appropriate as we remember Freddy and people like him. From my father's veins, my life I drew, as in patriot's arms I lay. And from those lips learned the lessons true that have steered me day by day. At nursed to rest on a loving breast, and rocked at a patriot's knee. God strengthen still my mind and will, and the patriot's heart in me. A loyal heart, a patriot's heart, from the shame of slavery free. God strengthen still my mind and will, and the patriot's heart in me. One of the hazards of getting up first is you don't get a chance to tune up. However, I'm not going to bore you rigid by standing here tuning up and trying to ad-lib at the same time. So I'll just play out a tune and brazen it out. Now my home is where the Cullen peaks rise towering o'er the waves, and the unbound sea and the grandeur free forbids me live a slave. The waves that pound on the rocks around seem to roar out liberty, and with each firm blast beat strong and fast this patriot's heart in me. A loyal heart, a patriot's heart, from the shame of slavery free. God strengthen still my mind and will, and the patriot's heart in me. I've read my nation's blood-soaked page, and I've sung her deathless songs. How I burned with rage from age to age, as I longed to right her wrongs. And when I saw to unjust law, she would never bow the knee. Half firmer yet for Scotland, this patriot's heart in me. A loyal heart, a patriot's heart, from the shame of slavery free. God strengthen still my mind and will, and the patriot's heart in me. Gavin said, would it be okay if I were to sing one of the ding-dong songs that Freddy actually wrote, and it was a process of education for me. Because I didn't know that Freddy had written this song about the Polis of Argyll. I simply learned it from the singing of Josh Maclean. And Josh was one of these people, he had records in the hit parade, but he still had time to talk with people. He was a marvellously open and honest and sharing human being. In fact, he's such a good life that I could tell you about him and maybe be in tune at the end of it. However, Josh was generous to a fault, and now that I know that Freddy wrote this song, I can look at it with a whole new approach. Let us sing about Lord Nelson and Francis Drake the Brave, and how they sank the Spaniards and the pirates beneath the waves. But they can't compare with Yankee sons who sneaked past Darren's Isle and left the battle owed to the Polis o' Argyll. These worthy sons of Robert Peel are trained to keep the law, and any danger they'll confront, providing it is small. In naval operations they specialise in style, but the holy law protector shot for the Polis o' Argyll. With only frogmen to assist and specials by the score, the Polis proved their gallantry, all heroes to the core. With Proteus squad behind them and atomic missiles too, they performed the near impossible and captured one canoe. So all you Russian astronauts who wish around the globe, stay far away from Scotland in your Cosmo rocket probe. For if you land near Gurk, you'll be captured in fine style by the Yanks. Am I interrupting you down there? I'll sing more quietly if I am. Do you know, I've had a very interesting life. I've been heckled by a drunken Hamish Henderson, and I've had to tell off Harry McShane for talking through songs. I had to say to him, hey, Harry, are songs less important than speeches and poems? And he took it very well. He just put two heavies on me, that's all. So all you Russian astronauts who navigate the globe, stay far away from Scotland in your Cosmo rocket probe. For if you land near Gurk, you'll be captured in fine style by the Yanks combining forces with the Polis o' Argyll. By the Yanks combining forces with the Polis o' Argyll. I met Freddy through the organisational skills of Maurice Blythman, or as he would be known today, father of Joanna. And also the company of Dominic Behan, with whom he works a lot. And the trouble with the crack in pubs is it gets embroidered sometimes beyond recognition. And I have absolutely no idea if this story was true, if it was an existing story that was built into the legend that was to be Freddy hanging out with Dominic, or what it was. But the story went something like they were coming back from Dublin to Liverpool on the boat, and it was a particularly rough crossing, and the passengers were thrown up all over the place, and they left sandwiches that had been prepared for the trip on the deck. And Dominic or Freddy, perhaps the family can sort it out for me, they saw these sandwiches and they took them, and they were chicken sandwiches. And this was in the days when a chicken sandwich was really something to be prized. So they were busy munching into these chicken sandwiches and noticed that the sandwich was a bit kind of difficult to eat. It was kind of, had a texture about it that wasn't right. And they realised it wasn't like that when they took it out of the poke. And having looked at the rail above, here was a guy with an urn in his hand, scattering ashes going into the sea, most of which blew back onto the sandwiches they were eating. And if I had the tag to the story right, it was, and Dominic ate the lot. So it wouldn't be inappropriate to offer this song of Dominic's, because after all, who inspired Freddy, or did Freddy inspire Dominic? One of the mysteries of the universe yet to be sorted out. There lies a page in history when the workers first fought back, when the mile of exploitation at last began to crack. In farm and field, in shipyard, in workshop, mine and mill, there sprang a light, a beacon bright, that flame is burning still. And Connolly was there, Connolly was there, oh great, brave and daunted, James Connolly was there. When the bosses tried to sweep the lads away on Glasgow's Clyde, a voice like rolling thunder it soon shook them in their stride. In Liverpool and Belfast the workers' lives were hell, until at last they organised, and any man can tell that Connolly was there, Connolly was there, oh great, brave and daunted, James Connolly was there. William Martin Murphy and his Dublin millionaires tried bribery and corruption, hypocrisy and prayers to smash the transport union. The scabs he did enlist, but all their craft was shattered by a scarlet iron fist. For Connolly was there, Connolly was there, oh great, brave and daunted, James Connolly was there. They say that he was murdered, shot dying in a chair. But go march on to freedom now, and the workers don't despair. For in farm and field and shipyard, then workshop, mine and mill, that shining light, that beacon bright, that flame is burning still. And Connolly will be there, Connolly will be there, oh great, brave and daunted, James Connolly will be, sing if you will, Connolly will be there, Connolly will be there, oh great, brave and daunted, James Connolly will be there. The idea that Gavin gave me earlier on was that I could maybe include a song of Freddy's, which I dutifully did, with the Polis of Argyll, but I hadn't actually thought about the song for ages. And it's one of these things about vanity that he said, have you still got such and such in your repertoire? And rather than say, I'll go and look it up and see, those of us that are performers do tend to put up a front, and of course I just said, of course. And then he said, Elspeth King might be there, of Lady of the People's Palace, and it would be appropriate to sing a song since we're only really a short distance from it, and would you be able to sing that one? And I said, yes, of course. So this might be the day I get found out. Let's see. As I was walking with the winds and my wee wifey Alice, I tell't a stranger I just met about my Eastern Palace. Said he to me, that just can't be, you're not a king, old bean. But I proved and rang with the words I sang, and I placed on the Glasgow Green. Come along with me if you want to see the palace of the people, standing alone in the red sandstone way of the high dome and steeple. The place vibrates with Glasgow great, for the fucking man they spoke. Be the graver, gallus, take a trip to the palace, it belongs to the Glasgow folk. There were galleries great in the year '98 in the West End of the city. Kelvin Grove was a treasure trove, but there just remained one pity. 'Twas a horse-drawn tram or a walkway a pram, till the day that they were released. Frae the hassle o' the malice, with the building o' a palace for the folk that were broke in the east. Come along with me if you want to see the palace o' the people, standing alone in the red sandstone way up a high dome and steeple. The place vibrates with Glasgow greats, for the working man they spoke. Be you grave or gallus, take a trip to the palace, it belongs to the Glasgow folk. Now you'll learn of Glasgow if you seek how Gaelic the dear green place is. With a coat of arms that's quite unique, our history proudly traces. Saint Mungo is your patron saint, depicted you will see him. All this and more you will find in store in the old PP Museum. Come along with me if you want to see the palace o' the people, standing alone in the red sandstone way up a high dome and steeple. The place vibrates with Glasgow greats, for the working man they spoke. Be you grave or gallus, take a trip to the palace, it belongs to the Glasgow folk. So come on with me and we'll go and see this winter garden treasure, and we'll spare a thought for yon fine lot who fought to save its treasure. Let's never take for granted this old structure fair and fine, for it's standing there for us all to share, for the palace is yours and mine. Come along with me if you want to see the palace o' the people, standing alone in the red sandstone way up a high dome and steeple. The place vibrates with Glasgow greats, for the working class they spoke. Be you grave and gallus, take a trip to the palace, it belongs to the Glasgow folk. It belongs to the Glasgow folk. Mr. Gavin Paterson, to take us through the day.
The national treasure, that is Alastair McDonald, and indeed Elspeth King and McDonald. You're very, very welcome. Thanks very much.
Hi. I gotta go, I've got another engagement. It's in April. Okay.
Now, Alastair made reference to respect for the performers. We're going to have wee breaks where you can get to the bar and have a bit of a chat. I know there's folk here that have not seen each other for an awful long time. In particular, when people are coming up to read a poem, give them a wee bit of silence, because it's harder to try and get some spoken word through. If somebody's singing, and I know that Alastair, but just a wee bit of respect for the performers, that's what we're going to do. Now, I've got a couple of testimonials that have been sent in to me. I mean, there was a lot of people that I contacted who wanted to be here today, but for various reasons they couldn't. So I've got one here from somebody I'm sure you'll all know. Rab Knox has got an MU gig on this afternoon, or he's still going to try and come in before the end of the afternoon, but Rab sent us a few words, and he says, way back in the dim and distant mid-1960s, it was a treat for me and many of my generation to encounter the riches of folk song, not least the Scottish and Irish repertoires, which were full of marvellous songs, over and above the layers of wonder, love, politics and history that the songs contained. We were suddenly being introduced to and finding ourselves in the company of some wonderful people, the likes of whom we'd never met hitherto in our somewhat sheltered lives. And I can well relate to that. The list included illustrious characters like the source singers such as Jeannie Robertson and old Davy Stewart, alongside the first generation revivalists like Alex Campbell and Hamish Imlach. And to this list we must add Freddy Anderson, whom, as Rab says, I first encountered in the Scotia Bar. in the latter half of the 1960s. Freddy was a marvellously, poetically, politically, and as tireless an enthusiast for his own work and for the work of all the others around him. He was a generous person, as so many were, and was also among the first Irish people that I ever encountered. I liked and admired him a lot, and he's sorely missed still in these licensed establishments and at times less assiduously licensed events. Rabnoke, September 2019. Thanks, Rab. When Freddie came over to Scotland from Monaghan, he very quickly met up with a group of poets and writers. At this point, it would be fair to say that there weren't any folk song writers. That just didn't exist. In the main, it was McDermott and all his people, it was all the writers that were kind of setting the agenda. Folk music came just after this. But in 1948, Freddie met up with John Kincaid, George Todd, Thurso Berwick, otherwise known as Maurice Blythman. Hamish Henderson was part of that as well. There's somebody here who can actually give us first-hand account of these days. Marion Blythman is going to come up and read a Freddie poem. Put your hands together. She's the queen of us all. It's as simple as that. The wonderful Marion Blythman.
I'm a wee person, so I'll put it down a bit. This was in 1948, and we were all kind of wet behind the ears, but these four guys were really interested in poetry. And I thought I would just read this one called The Blackberry Man. And for those of you who are interested, you'll find that Seamus Heaney, the great Seamus Heaney, also wrote a poem about the Blackberry Man, which I recommend to you as well. The lanes of Monaghan are heavy with blackberries, and all the children have cans. They fill them full in the summer sun and sell them to the Blackberry Man. The Blackberry Man has beady eyes that open in the sun. He packs the fruit to the rim in the barrels and sends them over the sea. The Blackberry Man is a happy man with a house upon a hill, with a pony and trap and a nice new cap and a man to work his mill. But happier far are the children there whose rafter rains greets the open air by the dewgrass lanes of Monaghan, and fearing neither God nor man, find the world on the edge of a blackberry can.
Thank you very much, Marion. Well, you're here. You heard me saying that on the front cover of the Ding Dong Dollar, that's Marion. She's on the front cover of the Ding Dong Dollar. So, Marion, just give us your recollections of the anti-nuclear protests down at the Holy Loch in the 1961 and 1962, because there's not many people that can give us a first-hand account now of actually being there. I mean, I'm sure Brian Quail, who's like the man for the anti-nuclear stuff, but this is even pre-Brian, right? So it'd be really interesting if Marion just tell us a little bit about your recollections of the anti-nuclear protests.
It all kind of started with the Stone of Destiny, you know, because up till then, the English had always had the laugh, and we somehow been the ones that had been left looking a bit foolish. And Morris decided that after the Stone of Destiny was stolen, that the best thing he could do was get all the poets to write poems and songs, and that was what happened. And that became an iconic collection, The Signs of the Steam. They established a tradition of political singing, political song singing, and I think they realised what a powerful weapon it actually was. So as soon as the Yanks came into the Holy Loch, they just saw it as an assault on Scotland and decided to do something about it. So there were then years when we spent all our time down in the Holy Loch protesting in every kind of way that you could imagine. I think it was really an important time because it showed the power of song in the political struggle. And up till then there had been hymn-type songs, but there hadn't been that fighting, cheeky, in-your-face kind of response to what was going on. So I just think for me it was one of the really great times in my life. It was one of the most important times in my life. I made all sorts of great friends. Josh McCrae Jackie O'Connor, a whole lot of people that you see there. And I think we did something for the folk song tradition. At the same time, Hamish had started with Jeannie Robertson, and he was collecting stuff up in the Highlands, and that was important. But this was bringing it right up to date. This was the things that were happening to us now and giving people a voice. So I just think it was a very important time, and I was jolly glad to be in it.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, Marion Blythman. Very possibly the only person in the room to have been offered and rejected an honour from the Queen. I'm going to sing a song and then we're going to get Ian Spring up to tell us about his reminiscences of Morris and read some poems. I suppose after all this talk about Polaris, we really have to sing some of the Ding Dong Dollar songs, eh? Oh, you can't spend $1 when you're dead. Oh, you can't spend $1 when you're dead. Singing ding dong dollar, everybody holler. You can't spend $1 when you're dead. Oh, well, the Yanks had just dropped anchor in Dundee, and they had a civic welcome fitted down. As they came up the measured my old bonny Mary of Argyle, she was wearing spangled drawers full of goon. Come on, you know it! But you can't spend $1 when you're dead. Again! Oh, you can't spend $1 when you're dead. Singing ding dong dollar, everybody holler. You can't spend $1 when you're dead. Oh, well, the publicans, they'll all be doing swell, but it's just the thing that's sure to ring their bell. Oh, the dollars, they will jingle, there'll be no lassie single, even though they'll maybe blow us all to hell. Oh, but you can't spend $1 when you're dead. Again! Oh, you can't spend $1 when you're dead. Singing ding dong dollar. Everybody holler. You can't spend $1 when you're dead. Oh, but the Glasgow moderator doesn't mind. In fact, he thinks the Yanks are awfully kind. For if it's heaven that you're going, there's a quicker way than rowing, and there's sure to be nobody left behind. Oh, but you can't spend $1 when you're dead. So tell Kennedy he's got to keep the heat. Singing ding dong dollar, everybody holler. You can't spend $1 when you're dead. This next one I would often have to put into context. You guys know the context, I don't need to tell you. Captain Lanning looked down his nose and he said, we're being attacked by the Glasgow Eskimos. To which we said, hello, hello, we are the Eskimos. Hello, hello, we're the Glasgow Eskimos. We'll gaff and yap of Lanning and we'll speed on Lonnie Flaws, for we are the Glasgow Eskimos. And it's up the Clyde came Lanning, a super duper yank, to the damn sight quicker when we cowped down the stank. Up to your knees and sweetens to reach, really stops your swank, for we are the Glasgow Eskimos. You know it, let's hear ya! Hello, hello, we are the Eskimos. Hello, hello, we're the Glasgow Eskimos. We'll get that yap of Lanning and we'll speed on what it blows, for we are the Glasgow Eskimos. And there's dredgers, there's sludgy boats that keep our river clean. You lift your hand, you pull the chain, you know just what I mean. So why in hell has the holy loch been left outside that steam? For we are the Glasgow Eskimos. Let's hear ya! Hello, hello, we are the Eskimos. Hello, hello, we're the Glasgow Eskimos. We'll gap and yap of Lanning, we'll speed on morning close, for we are the Glasgow Eskimos. Yes, we are the Glasgow Eskimos. Hello! I love these songs that Morris set to the marching tunes of the Orange Order. Only somebody who's very thrawn would set Republican songs to the marching songs of the Orange Order, which essentially means that you can't sing them anywhere. Ladies and gentlemen, the man that's going to come up and speak to you just now has written books. He knew Freddy back in the day. He's got an awful lot more that he can say about the man than I can, so please put your hands together. Welcome Ian Spring up onto the stage.
It's a pleasure to be here with Paul and Dermot and Isabel. The last time all four of us were in this room was the occasion of Freddy's funeral some years ago. I heard about Freddy's death. I lived in England and I flew up to come to the funeral, and the next day, or the day, 2 days later, I went to see Hamish Henderson in his nursing home, and that was the last time I was to see Hamish too, and they were both fondly remembered. The occasion of Freddy's funeral is recounted in my latest book, actually, Real Glasgow. There's an account of it, and there's also an account of this pub with a photograph of it in it. Real Glasgow has several poems, on various poems on subjects related to Glasgow. I thought I'd read a couple of short ones, if that's okay for you. The first one I actually read in the Carlton Bar just a couple of weeks ago, and I'm going to read it again, however, because coming back here is like coming back to somewhere from the past, and this is on that very topic. I was born in Everline Street in Denison, just off Chatham Street, and only very recently I discovered a photo of Edinburgh Street by on the World Wide Web. First photograph I think I'd ever seen of it since I left there as a lad. And that was quite nostalgic for me. This is a poem I wrote for the book, and it's about going back to your childhood. It's called Going Back on Chatham Street. Feet fall and fall and fall and fall, never knowing trek and trawl of a grey, unspoken street. Swing parks, dandelion cracked, backs and brakes of middenbutt, smoky odorous pubs, small stout fag ash Johnny Walker neat. 3 Punnatatis, missus, your man's up the close, toe to toe with the back street bookie. School wains, sagely chalking walls, and once again the street, living its day until day is done. History forgot to call. Feet fall and fall and fall and fall, that unnamed day that ebbs and flows and softly calls and dreams. The gaunt authority of the lost. Within the land, mapped, in memory unstitched, the man returning, yet a boy. It's okay, I didn't pause for applause, I just can't find the next poem. Oh, yes. Just a little elegy for the lost golden age of Scottish football. The days when we could hear Jimmy Sanderson every Saturday on the radio, and Scotland occasionally could win a game. It's called Whatever Happened to the Foul Shy. Whatever happened to the foul shy? That indiscretion of unanchored foot and jugged palms, to thrippity heaves and flailing arms, to Billy Blue Nose and Tam the Bam, to rowboat benders and big toe enders. Whatever happened to the foul shy? Whatever happened to the shoulder charge, the refined dynamics of bluter and barge, to lace-wrapped boots and whalebone pads, to Catenaccio and macaroon bars? Whatever happened? to the shoulder charge. Whatever happened to the foul shy? No Willie Woodburn band signed die, no Feed the Bear or the Third's Gone Bust, no Chick Charnley's rapier thrust, no flute and whistle with Alan Ruff. The field of dreams has turned to dust. Whatever happened to the foul shy? The more substantive thing I have to say is I've been talking to Paul for a while about publishing the complete works of Freddy Anderson, and we have a plan to do so. And for next year, at some point, I've been working on this. I have my own imprint that I set up when I retired to try and publish volumes on Scottish folk song and related areas that other publishers wouldn't handle. There have been 2 books so far. Peter Buchan's Secret Songs of Silence, and my own book, Hamish Henderson and Scottish Folk Song. I'll put these up at the back, by the way, if anybody wants to have a look at them. And we've mocked up a cover for Freddy Anderson Collected Poems and Prose, which you can have a look at. So the plan is to publish that next year, but I could do with some help. I've already had a lot of enthusiastic responses. Glasgow Caledonian University, who have the Freddy Anderson archive, where I was last week, and Carol McCallum, the archivist, are very keen on the project and eager to support it. So that's good. I've had an offer of support from Cheeky Bism Productions. Jim's there somewhere, who's a Cheeky Bism, who would like to support it as well. And I haven't confirmed this yet, but I believe it's going to be supported by the Scottish Poetry Library. I'll be seeing the director, Asif Khan, next week. Also, when I spoke to Paul about it, we decided that this project should not be profit-making, and in actual fact would like all the profits from this edition of the book to go to a worthwhile charity. With that in mind, I've spoken this week to FAIR Family Action in Rogerfield and Easterhouse, who help underprivileged families and give opportunities to young people in Easterhouse and East End of Glasgow. And they've agreed to support the publication, and they will receive the profits from it. So I'm quite excited about that. Where we could do with some help is this. First of all, I've put together a tacit list of contents. And basically, I've looked at Willie Gallagher's collection, my own collection of Freddy stuff, and the archive in the university. And I've come up with a total of 116 poems so far, but I don't think that's complete, because I even noticed at the post that Argyll isn't in it. So we could do with some help, and many people may have other poems or bits by Freddy that they want to offer us to help with it. So that's the first way people could help. There's been a couple of interesting tributes to Freddy tonight. But I've talked to Paul about it. We'd quite like to have short appreciations in the book by anyone who wants to say what they knew about Freddy. There's plenty of stories about him. I could tell you a few, but I'm not going to just on this occasion. So appreciations would be welcome from anyone who'd like to contribute. And also, I've said in a short form here, which I'd like you to fill in. There's some at the back there, but I think I'll pass some around. It's just contact details and name if you're interested in hearing about the publication. Also, there's a box you can tick saying, I would like to pre-order a copy of the book at a special price of £10. You don't have to pay anything, but if you tick that, it'll give us an idea of how many copies we are likely to sell. And there's a space for comments at the bottom. So what I intend is a table up by the bar there. I'm going to put the books up, which you can have a look at if you're interested. I'll put this contents list there, and there's the forms are there as well, but I think I'll pass them round. And please, if you're interested and would like to keep in touch about it, if you fill in the form and put it back in the table up there, that would be just wonderful. Thank you for your time.
Please listen. The doomsday clock is closer to midnight now than it's ever been in the past. Even then, in the 60s. It's closer than it's been, even the height of the Cuban Missile Crisis. It is closer now than it's ever been in the past. Can that please sink in? There is more need now than there ever was. Last week I was in London, protesting, blockading the arms fair in Excel, where the arms manufacturers were meeting together to celebrate their profits. They sell weapons. We sell weapons to Saudi Arabia, which uses them in Yemen. We sell them to Israel, which uses them in Gaza. And they are made at Glenrothes, here in Scotland, they break and fight. That's the shameful position we're in. Then, at the Excel, I sang a song, and I'm going to inflict it on you now. Hopefully you'll sing it with me. It's a song I have sung many times at Fast Lane and elsewhere. It's an old song, but it's a great one, and I hope you'll join with me. We shall overcome. We shall overcome. We shall overcome someday. Oh, deep in my heart, I do believe we shall overcome someday. We shall live in peace. We shall live in peace. We shall live in peace. We shall live in peace someday. Oh, deep in my heart, I do believe we shall live in peace someday. We'll walk hand in hand. We'll walk hand in hand. We'll walk hand in hand. We'll walk hand in hand someday. Oh, deep in my heart, I do believe we shall overcome someday. The last verse wasn't talked about. We are not afraid. We are not afraid. We are not afraid. We are not afraid today. Oh, deep in my heart, I do believe we shall overcome someday. Thank you very much, all of you.
Thank you very much, Brian, another hero. Well done, sir. Thank you very much. Brian's been fighting the good fight now for as long as I can remember. Thanks very much, man. Now, everybody knows that Freddy is synonymous with the Scotia. It's hard to talk about Freddy without mentioning the Scotia. And it just so happens that Freddy was involved in being inspirational about an album that was recorded called Scotia Folk. He wasn't on it himself, but it just so happens that we have somebody with us this afternoon who actually sang on the Scotia Folk album, produced by John Maclean on the Fontana record label in, I believe, 1971. From the tradition, please put your hands together. They're going to come up and sing us a couple of songs. It's Kevin and Ellen Mitchell.
Who I am and what I'm doing here. Listen and I'll tell you if you'll only lend an ear. I've had many's an occupation and I'll tell you plump and plain. My present situation has already turned my brain. I'm a kind of an overseer in a famous hotel, and the residents of Glasgow, they all know it well. It's called the Model Lodging House, where working men do stay, and 5 and 6 pence every week is the rent they have to pay, where there's tinkers and tailors, millionaires and snobs, silversmiths and fingersmiths that go for people's fobs. They're a funny lot of boarders, and they're up to every dodge. All the fighting men in Glasgow's in McGinty's Model Lodge. There's a tailor in room 15, a would-be pugilist. He swears there's not a snob alive whose neck he couldn't twist. When the little snobby heard of this, he stood out on the floor and swore he'd knock the tailor through the keyhole of the door. Oh, this rose the tailor's manly blood, and at length his rage broke loose, and diving underneath the bed, he seized hold of his goose. But the little snob made at him, and he showed him what was what, and he stuffed the tailor's whiskers through the lining of his hat. Where there's tinkers and tailors, millionaires and snobs, silversmiths and fingersmiths that go for people's fobs. They're a funny lot of boarders, and they're up to every dodge. All the fighting men in Glasgow's in McGinty's Model Lodge. Last night we had a concert to pass the time away. We had some other fun and games until the break of day. Some fella sang The Anchor's Weighed and was getting great applause, but another fella wished to know what weight the anchor was. Oh, he really meant no harm, it was merely just a joke. But some other fellas collared him just as these words he spoke, and there is no use in talking, they gave it to him hot. He received one solid blow that left his eyebrows in a knot. Oh, there's tinkers and tailors, millionaires and snobs, silversmiths and fingersmiths that go for people's fobs. They're a funny lot of boarders, and they're up to every dodge. All the fighting men in Glasgow's in McGinty's Model Lodge.
Just in case you don't know, I'm Ellen Mitchell, that was Kevin Mitchell. Anyway, I first met Freddy when I was 9, when my dad brought him home from the pub, and they were in a very cheerful mood, and he gave me the words that Marion had read out. He gave me a copy of The Blackberry Man, which I took into school and the teacher made me read it out, but anyway. It's my early claim to fame, Freddy Anderson. And this is a song that Freddy would have loved. It's written by another poet called Donny O'Rourke, and Dave White of Tuolbeg has put a tune to it. And it brings in the idea of, the River Clyde, looking across the Clyde from Greenock. And I was born in Monteithrow, which is just along the road. There's hardly any of it left now. But at 3 months old, I was taken down to Dunoon and left at 6. But I did in the 60s go back to protest, not about leaving Dunoon, but about what they were doing to Dunoon. Anyway, here we go. Growing up on the lower Clyde, Argyll was greener on the other side. We watched the last Cunarder glide down to the sea, down to the sea. We watched watched the last Cunarder glide down to the sea. Let's not get sentimental about toil and sweat. There's things about the old days we should forget. But Clyde-built ships could be sailing yet. Down to the sea, down to the sea. But Clyde-built ships could be sailing yet. Down to the sea. Every apprentice who learned his trade, every boat that he ever made, these are ghosts that can't be laid. They go down to the sea, down to the sea. These are ghosts that can't be laid. They go down to the sea. Listen to the voices of the skilled tradesmen, sold down their own river for 30 yen. But we don't need ships to sail again. Down to the sea, down to the sea. No, we don't need ships to sail again. Down to the sea. Greenock's reasons its river, and that's still so. But these days all it does is flow. In Wilder's dreams the talks still go. Down to the sea, down to the sea. In Wilder's dreams the talks still go. Down to the sea. My father's eyes were boiler suit blue. He was proud of all that he'd learned to do. But no one needs the craft he knew to go down to the sea, down to the sea. Now no one needs the craft he knew to go down to the sea. Growing up on the lower Clyde, Argyll was greener on the other side. We watched the last Cunarder glide down to the sea.
Thank you very much, folks. In the order that they heard them, that was Kevin first, and then that was Ellen Mitchell. Fantastic stuff. I'll read to you a testimonial that Jim Maclean sent up to me. Jim's been living in London now since the 1960s. The body of work that Jim did with Nigel Denver and then with Alastair, who we heard at the start of the show, is absolutely astonishing. Unfortunately, it never got properly issued when the digital age came along, so it's been a wee bit forgotten. But there's some of it down here just now. Some of Nigel Denver's albums are available, digitised and put onto CD. You won't ever find them in the shops, and you won't ever find them on Amazon or anything else. But Jim was one of the writers of the Ding Dong Dollar project, and I've interviewed Jim for my own radio show on Celtic Music Radio, where I tend to concentrate on the people from the original era, what I call the first vinyl era of folk music, roughly 1960 to 1990. That's the era that exactly this falls into. And this is what Jim had to say. I met Freddy in the early 60s and recognised immediately a kindred Republican spirit with a common regard for the philosophy of John Maclean. He had a love and knowledge of Robert Burns, and he once sent me a poem called The Kirk's Alarm, echoing Burns's original. It was filed away, along with letters from Hugh McDermott, Winifred Ewing, and lately Mary Black, treasured possessions.
I remember sitting with him in my father's house in Paisley, quaffing a few beers, sharing poems, while he recited The Blackberry Man, enthralling my mother. I also enjoyed a great night with him and Isabel in their house in Coxton Place, with a supper of sandwiches of butter and broken chocolate sprinkled with sugar. And we wonder why diabetes is an issue. He had a ferocious belief in socialism, standing up for the rights of the common man to drink in the Scotia, amongst others. I think we all remember him parading outside with a placard demanding his rights after he was barred. Freddy's intellect was phenomenal, expressed in his plays from 33 years produced in the late 1940s to Crasivi after a poem by McDonald in praise of John Maclean. He gave me a copy of Ferguson Reel, which Marion just gave me today. Gave me a copy of Ferguson Reel published in 1949, which contains a collection of his poems which I read over and over again. I'm sorry I can't be with you today, but be assured I'm with you in spirit and will never forget my old friend Freddy. John Maclean. I think before we have the pies, let's raise a wee bit of hunger by singing a Jim Maclean song, one of the very few Jim songs that isn't political. There's a spot in Glasgow City that's well kept, the whole world it's more famous than the Mona Lisa's face. It is visited by royalty and rascals by the score. Everybody knows that Paris is the place. Oh, till you can, St. Peter lost the keys to young Big Per the gate, and he thought that he'd get flung out of his job. Then a fly-wee Glasgow angel said, now Peter, to greet, you can buy one at the Paris for a bob. You all know it, come on. Oh, the Paris, they've no in Rome, not Paris, and you have to go to Glasgow's Gallowgate. They sell tickets to the moon, and a ton costs half a crown, and buy book guarantees of first class seat. Oh, do you ken how Samson lost his strength? Delilah cut his hair, he was left as weak and body as a wane. So he travelled down to Glasgow to the Paris for a cure, and he soon was strong and hairy once again. And when the Romans came to Scotland many donkeys years ago, and he got no further than the Gallowgate. For the lads that ran the barrows swapped them souvenirs for swords, then the fiery Glasgow Keelys had them beat. Oh, the barrows, oh, the barrows, oh, the barrows, they're no in Rome, not Paris. You have to go to Glasgow's Gallowgate. They sell tickets to the moon, or a ton for half a crown, and buy both guarantees of first class seat. Prince Charlie had to flee off the Scotia shore and seek refuge far across the friendly main. How the tears came streaming from his een when these words he did speak. Oh, I'd love to see the Paris once again. And so before I close my story, I'm gonna give you some advice if you're after something cheap or second hand. Take a trip down to the Paris, but there's nothing can compare to the stuff they sell in Glasgow's Barrowland. Oh, the Paris, they've no in Rome, not Paris, and you have to go to Glasgow's Gallowgate. They sell tickets to the moon, or a ton for half a croon, and buy both guarantees of first class seat. One more time. Oh, the bars, they are no in Rome, not Paris. No, you have to go to Glasgow's Gallowgate. They sell tickets to the moon, and a ton for half a crown, and buy both guarantees of first class seat. Ah, you know, buy both guarantees of first class seat. and I'm sure you're going to go away tonight and you'll say to yourself and you'll say to each other, that guy had one of the best voices I have ever heard in my life. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Kenny Robertson.
Thank you. So nothing to live up to then, Gavin. Thanks very much for that. Can I just say, first of all, when Gavin asked me to come up and do this, he didn't really tell me I was going to be here with Glasgow folk royalty. I mean, the amount of people in here that you could just, you wouldn't wrap them up and take them all home with you. Arthur Johnson, people like that. It's just incredible, absolutely unbelievable. And I'm delighted to be here. I have to say, I didn't know Freddy at all. I never met the guy, and I wish I had. And I was playing a gig last night, I was telling Arthur, with a guy called Shuggy O'Rourke, who's one of the JSD members. Shuggy and I are playing a band with another guy, and Shuggy knew him, and he said, oh my God, I hope I can make it. And he said he met Freddy one day and he just broke up with a girl, and he said to Freddy, I've just broke up with my girlfriend, and Freddy said, I'll write you a song, I'll write you some poetry about that and you can put it to music. But he never finished it and it never came out, and I wish he had. But this is I'm going to do a couple of songs from a guy that I did know and I did meet, and he also, Gavin had sung a few songs by him. This is a couple of tunes from a guy who, as I say, I knew very well, a guy called Matt McGinn. So if you know the words of this, or any of these songs, please join in, okay? This is called The Dundee Goes. Now a deed man seldom walks, he very rarely talks, and it's not very often you'll find him running around. Ah, but I'm a refugee from a graveyard in Dundee, and I've come to haunt some hooters in Glasgow. Oh, I've come to haunt some hooters in Glasgow. Now the reason I arose was to get myself some clothes, but it really gets hell of a cold below the ground. But I whispered to myself, well, I think I might as well just hang around for a while and have some fun. Oh, hang around for a while and have some fun. Now a man paid his life and a cold and wintry night, so I showed him one of my eyes, my slapped his heat. He says, oh, and I says, boo. He says, who the hell are you? I says, don't be feared, I'm only a man this week. Oh, don't be feared, I'm only a man this week. Well, the man gave in and prayed, and this is what he said. Now why in the name of God have you picked on me? I saw a pound of his luck, and I battered him on the luck. The reason I say is I'll very soon let you see. Oh, the reason I say is I'll very soon let you see. Well, he called the police in, I battered him on the chin. The police turned around and he blamed my friend. So they clapped him in the jail and he'll be in there by a while. But I'll see nobody steals his sing-along. Oh, I'll see nobody steals his sing-along. Now the police thought daft, and a lot of people laughed when the fella said a ghost was in his house. But what the fella says was true, and I might be visiting you. So just remember I'm still on the list. Oh, just remember I'm still on the list. On the beach at Portobello, Maggie fell in with a fellow. His hair was black and his teeth were yellow, down by the Portobello Pier. Well, he was bowling, she was hand-told, singing come back to Sorrento, made her feel quite sentimental, down by the Portobello Pier. Though his shoes were worn to the uppers, he bought her a big pie supper. She thought he was trying to get acquainted, down by the Portobello says he to her upon an impulse. Well, how do you like my dimples? She says, I couldn't outsee them for your pimples down by the Portobello Pier. Now he got French with Maggie Gemmell. She said, hey you, what's your demo? He says, wait, now give you a demo down by the Portobello Pier. Now he lay her upon the sand dune. He breathed at her with reckless abandon. She said, hey you, get your hand in down by the Portobello Pier. On the beach at Portobello, Maggie fell in with a fellow. His hair was black and his teeth were yellow down by the Portobello Pier. This has got a chorus in it, and if you know Matt again, you'll know this song. I think this is really appropriate for where we are. This is Glasgow and Irish Gaelic. And as you get a hodder I'll heater I heater hodder I heater my you batter and I'll bloater I can heater some of them and you can get the fear. You try that. Now as you get a hodder I'll heater I heater hodder I heater my you batter and I'll bloater I can heater some of them and you can get the fear. After Cayley and the Carlton, the band was doing his best until the leader he got up to ask for a request. And making such an offer, he was acting kind of rash. For half the one the soldiers on the other half the side, and if you get a order, I'll heater on the heater on my head. You batter on and I'll blow to the back and heater some of them and you can take the view. Now there was heathen in the halls, heathen in the bars. The true heathen man was there having a couple of jars. He was being fine and he didn't want any trouble, but everyone that heated him, he paid them back the double. And the shoe get a harder, I'll heater harder on my heater on my head. You batter on the I'll blow it to the night and heat the summer then and you can get it. Now the ends to your nice wee man, he got up to see Yuri Geller, he was there to do the cabaret. He showed us all his magic and gave us all a laugh. Scratched a pimple on his neck until his heat fell off. And the shoe get a harder, I'll heat it on, harder on my heater on my head. You batter on, I'll put it on back and heat the summer then and you get it. And the shoe get a harder, I'll heat it on, harder on my head. You batter on, I'll put it on back and heat the summer then you can get off you. Thank you.
The fantastic Mr. Kenny Robertson, put your hands together. Going to have another poet for you just now. Jim, are you here? Jim Ferguson. Put your hands together and welcome Jim Ferguson.
Yeah, just thought I'd start off with Freddy's poem called That Glasgow Cross. I wished in England they call us the hard men. Yes, we are hard on the tyrant and tough, who have thrived on the backs of the workers, and we're telling them now to get off. They call us all rebels and reds here. We answer their charges with pride. We fight for real freedom and justice for the folk on the banks of the Clyde. A bright day is dawning the world o'er, when peace will be won on this earth, when women and men shall be equal in this era that's coming to birth. Let heaven take care of its angels. It's here I'm contented to bide, and I'll exchange all your Edens for the folks on the banks of the Clyde. It's really good to see this book again. I used to have a copy which has a slightly fancier cover, I must say. It was like kind of more shiny and that, but somebody took it. Anyway, I don't know where it went. Just thought I'd do a wee poem of my own. I first met Freddy in 1987 in a bookshop called Hatchards down the city centre. It was quite a posh bookshop, and we were both doing a reading there. I was 26 or 27 then, and me and Freddy got on quite well, and we went for a pint afterwards. And then I got to know Paul, but I had already knew Paul from before, so it was a bit weird. I was like that. He was like, "Oh, I know you." Anyway, that's a wee poem about closes. The close is such a seductive place. The close is a time traveller from slums to yuppies. For the midden to the speak here door, the Macintosh clays, the razor slash, drinking hussies, all that. Haberdash from Habitat, the Scottish writer's romantic setting for heavy scenes and heavy petting. The close, oh aye, my ain wee close. Sitting on the stair, your cellar resident comes out and says you can't sit there all night. And he's right, it's fucking freezing. A million dark and dingy metaphors, the smell of piss, like the smell of piss, a redundant can of special. What you doing sitting there? You can't drink in here, pal. I know, but the close is such a seductive place. I've got to be in it. I've got to be in it. And that's my last wee bit. It's a kind of sing-songy poem. It's called We're Not Supposed To. Just to say, I used to really enjoy drinking in the Victoria bar with Freddy and Paul and Dermot and the two Isabels. And Isabel used to, that's Freddy's wife, Isabel. No, Freddy's daughter, Isabel. Freddy's wife, Isabel, used to bring really cracking sandwiches, you know, none of this sugar and chocolate fish, you know, it was all like ham and all that, and egg mayonnaise, and tuna salad and everything, you know. We'd moved up in the world by that point. Anyway, we're not supposed to. We're not supposed to be feral children, happy to wander the streets of our talents. We're not supposed to walk on the streets where the cars go. We're not supposed to talk to the police in the wrong, strong tone. We're not supposed to disrespect millionaires' private property. We're not supposed to tune into the news from Russia today. We're not supposed to get drunk until we are sent to jail. We're not supposed to take control of our beautiful souls. We're not supposed to steal the wigs from balding judges. We're not supposed to appear on Star Trek The Next Generation or Big Bang. We're not supposed to outlive lazy lords who call themselves farmers. We're not supposed to caress our lovers with toil-weary hands. We're not supposed to mark life in seasons, but only in storms. We're not supposed to forget to harvest an overripe crop. We're not supposed to neglect our couscous for tatties and rice. We're not supposed to eat excessive amounts of sugar and spice. And we're not supposed to extract our own teeth with a dentist in sight. We're not supposed to migrate to the cities and steal the shit jobs. We're not supposed to use names like Charles or Harry or Grace. We're not supposed to mock the Queen at Holyrood Palace. We're not supposed to mock the Queen at Buckingham Palace. We're not supposed to mock the Queen at Westminster Abbey. We're not supposed to act like we are above ourselves. We're not supposed to remain forever the lower orders. We're not supposed to live long and prosper as part of the infinite natural structure. We're really not supposed to be here any longer, but here we are. Thanks very much. Just a great pleasure in my life to have met Freddy Anderson. It was a joy and an inspiration. Have a good day.
Thank you very much, Jim. Fantastic. Thank you, brother. Paul is going to have a few words with you here. On you go, Paul.
Thank you very much for such a splendid evening. There's a few things that are happening with Freddy. And Ian already said the book's coming out, and we've had the reproduction of Glassell Cross. But another important development is Joey Simmons has been working his house to get a selected works out, doing a lot of work, and he sent me the draft, and I put a preface to it, and it looks to me it's a very good project that I'll keep people posted on. One of the things that I woke me up last night was the film about Hamish Henderson. Hamish the movie is a brilliant movie, and what I want to do is to start on a piece of work called Freddy the movie, and I want as many people as possible who are here who will help me do an interview, give bits of information. Also want to go over to Ireland and to the places where Freddy was born and was educated, and have his poetry playing over the imagery of that. So I think it can make a good film, and I'm just going to tell you about that, and thank you.
A winding stretch of street down to the lonely brig, nor little west at first in Canalrig, till commerce grew. Then suddenly the Clydeside knew the storms of industry. Factory and mill thronged the riverside, and still the rover came. Old Mungo's glade could never be the same. This quayside proved a doorstep to the poor from Ireland, and from the Scottish glen poured to the Gaelic hosts of Highlandmen, by fire and sword evicted. And now the lonely road shares the pilgrim and his aching load of sorrow. From Ayrshire and Dumfries the broken farmer came, and in the city shambles fought the pinch and shame of failure. They manned the mills and built canals and streets, amazed the world with engineering feats of wonder. Pioneering city on the Clyde, who can know and not be stirred with pride? This is no lowly birth. From fields of Scotland's glory, from Erin's Isle so rich in rebel story, sons of the Croppy, Culloden and Glencoe paved these streets and made the river flow, until great ships, the wonder of the sea, arose from their untiring industry. How could such men be slaves mere ant-like on the heap, to drones donate the harvest that they reap? A people rich in manly self-reliance, and red oft times in passionate defiance of tyranny. Our ancient conscience martyrs on the brae, to Weaver Wilson at the cross gives way, and now heroic lustre begins his high ascent from small green graves among the tenements.
I think the spirit of Freddy is in the room. I don't think there's any doubt about that.